Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Kamiljan Akramov. I am a Senior Research Fellow at IFPRI. Greetings from Washington. Welcome to today's seminar. Today we have Dr. Alemayehu Seyoum Taffesse from IFPRI, and he is Senior Research Fellow and Head of IFPRI's Country Strategy Support Program in Ethiopia. And Dr. Taffesse has a PhD from University of Oxford. His current research focuses on evaluation of safety net programs, inter-sectoral growth linkages, performance of cooperatives, crop productivity, and more recently he wrote a lot about aspirations. And today's presentation will be on this topic, and the title of the presentation and the paper is "The Future in Mind, Long-Run Impact of Aspirations Intervention in Rural Ethiopia." And today's discussant is Dr. Etanesh Bekele from Westminster International University in Tashkent. So Alemaya, you will have about 30, 35, up to 40 minutes for presentation. Then Etanesh will have time for her comments on the paper. Then we will have at the end time for Q&A. Now I will give the floor to Dr. Taffesse, please.
Thank you very much, Kamiljan, for the invitation and the kind introduction. As Kamiljan said, today I'll talk about aspirations, particularly on an aspirations intervention that was conducted in Ethiopia and the findings related to that. It is joint work with Tanguy Bernard of IFPRI and University of Bordeaux, Stefan Derkon and Kate Orkin, Oxford University. And this has been going on for a while. Outline of the presentation. I start with a motivation, then provide some summary, a little bit of theory, maybe not a lot, and then the results of the field experiment, starting with design and a summary of findings. So motivation. There is now sufficient evidence across the world that poor people in developing countries usually do not invest as much as they should in terms of the returns that these such activities, investment activities, are expected to deliver, even in this regard, even when the returns are high. And so, as I was saying, there is enough evidence that the poor do not invest even when returns are high, and this is attributed to lack of opportunities. However, there is also in parallel evidence that there are beliefs and preferences that seem to constrain the poor from investing in activities that improve their well-being. They may form such beliefs in the sense that they are convinced that they are unable to improve their economic positions. And there are examples in Ethiopia, for instance, that is on the slide, the poor saying that it's a life of no thought for tomorrow, we have neither a dream nor an imagination, and so on. These beliefs and preferences, opportunities, the external constraints of the opportunities are deservedly considered as a main explanation, but these complementary explanations in the form of internal constraints seems to be important. Now, we focus on a specific set of questions related to the background that I just described, focusing on aspirations. First of all, the question we ask is, are low aspirations a possible explanation for the poor not investing the significant amount? And can we also change aspirations in some persistent manner? So what are aspirations? In short, they are forward-looking goals or targets economic agents set for themselves into the future. One way of looking at these aspirations is as end state preferences. People in education, in income, or other domains, multiple domains, of course, apply here, have end states they actually prefer. They would like to be engineers. They would like to be wealthy. They would like to be successful in some form or another. The importance of aspirations is that, one, they motivate action, and two, they are not distributed uniformly across people in communities. So these differences provide a handle, enable them to provide a handle on the question we set ourselves. Brief summary of our approach, starting with how we went about answering these questions. So the key premise in this regard is the difficulty created by aspirations themselves. Aspirations are endogenous in the sense that they relate to behavior, but also of individuals, and then infer what their aspirations were or are, just like revealed preferences are used to infer choices more broadly. Or we could work with declared preferences. In this case, we actually ask individuals what their aspirations are. And in our case, we opted for the second. We ask our subjects, study subjects, what their aspirations are in a specified set of domains. The second problem associated with aspirations or studying aspirations and their relationship with behavior is that of identification. As I said a bit earlier, aspirations affect behavior. That's at least the hypothesis. But it is also clear that behavior and related outcomes would affect aspirations. A simple example: a person may be successful because he or she started with high aspirations, or he or she has high aspirations because they are successful. So identifying the causation is problematic. And by using documentaries of success stories from the communities we are outside the communities we are studying. So our treatment is an RCT. Basically, our approach is an RCT. We have treatment, arm, randomly invited farmers to the documentaries I briefly mentioned, documentaries about role models, potential role models. And we have a placebo, which were not part of the initial treatment and are surveyed 5 years later. I'll leave this summary for later. And as a little theory, one way of looking at the mechanism that can introduce aspirations in the choice of individuals. It's a simple model. We have set up here. We have standard utility maximization over time with uncertainty, and two types of activities. One effortless with a return R, and another with effort, which is produced. You can call it a crop production if you like. The highest level of output that the economic agent aspires to achieve. And we assume it is binding in this case. We are not suggesting any way why aspirations are lower, and then you go through the usual techniques and you find a solution in the form of first order conditions. And the key message here is to note that the aspirations constraint would have a shadow cost, and that shadow cost acts as if returns to productive investment and investment in, as you could clearly see, if there was no additional constraint, the lambda plus 1 in each equation, which is positive, would drop out. So the equilibrium condition at which leisure, labor, and consumption and investment or saving rates are determined would be at a higher level. So it is as if the returns to these activities is reduced. And as I said, we do not, the model does not tell us why low aspirations are there, but there, that we can think of a possibility, number of possible explanations. The first is lack of or inattention to relevant information. And there are those Jason in 2010 and Hannah Mulinathan and Schwarzstein have respectively lack and inattention to the relevant information as an explanation to these lower level aspirations. In our experiment, we have no specific information on returns is provided. However, we can't test, because we have a placebo against the treatment, whether specific information in the videos matter. So that we can test, and it doesn't matter. No perceived probability of success is another, and more importantly, which we focus on, is these beliefs about oneself and aspirations more broadly are shaped by societies, individual past experience, persuasion, and all three. And this important channel is what we focus on today. Our experimental setting, a rural isolated poor district, and it has a number of characteristics, including being covered by the Productive Safety Net program, which covers chronically food insecure areas, and it is also a limited market economy. So you can keep in mind about external validity of the point estimates. Some further detail on experimental design at the village level. We have selected randomly 84 villages from a list of villages in the woreda. These are, of course, randomly selected, and we have treatment villages where 36 people or 18 households per village are selected in the 64 villages, and we have a sample of 2100. And the pure control villages I told you about surveyed at the end line, 30 people or 15 households in 20 villages. Within the 64 treatment villages, we have households randomly selected to fill in these arms. This selection is based on a complete listing of all households in each village. The treatment arm, we have 12 people or 6 households per village, and they are invited to 4 documentaries, each 15 minutes long. And these are documentaries about role models, 2 men, 2 women, and the Doba woreda speaks Oromifa, so they were dubbed in Oromifa. Actually, only one is dubbed in Oromifa because the other 3 speak Oromifa. And the documentaries are produced specifically for this experiment. And on the Oxford YouTube site, you can get some of these. Then we have placebo in these villages. 12 people or 6 households are each invited to attend a local Ethiopian TV show. Then we have within village controls, another 6 households or 12 people, 2 from each household, that is, who are surveyed but are not invited, as I told you, to the treatment or to the placebo. Timeline, baseline September, December 2010. Then we have the aspirations, expectations, treatment, and then follow up. So we have right after the treatment, we have a survey of aspirations, mini survey of aspirations and expectations. Follow up 6 months later and 5 years later. We also surveyed an endline of the 20 remaining villages as pure control at the endline. Balance at the individual level, we have balanced within treatment villages at baseline, and also balanced on demographics and assets at endline across all the 4 types of group subgroups that I described earlier: treatment, placebo, within village controls, and pure controls. At the village level, we also have these balance at the baseline, at the endline as well. One with these lengths of separation from the baseline and the endline, one worries about 2 things. One is non-compliance at the baseline during the treatment, and we have very limited non-compliance. About 2% of treated individuals actually failed to comply or attend the screenings. So that is very, very good. And attrition over the 5-year period was only 9.6%. Although a closer study of this attrition process revealed that younger individuals appear to attrit more. However, the rate of attrition is not attrition is not related to treatment status or outcomes. So we have 1,800 or so households, individuals covered by this study. We have 5 hypotheses, so to speak. Primary hypothesis, 3 primary hypotheses and 2 secondary hypotheses. The primary hypothesis relates to the question: does intervention lead to the intervention described lead to change in aspirations, beliefs, and behavior? And this is tested after 6 months as well as 5 years. So the first set is on aspirations and self-belief. So aspirations and expectations, as well as beliefs of one kind or another are described. Second set, labor supply and human capital investment. And third set, future-oriented economic behavior. A pair of secondary hypotheses, sets of secondary hypotheses. These are: one, are aspirations really the channel to produce these impacts? And second, do we observe behavioral change which affects welfare? Again, other channels include risk aversion, this time and risk preferences, as well as locus of control, self-belief, and so on. And information that we talked about earlier. And welfare, consumption, and income. So how do we exactly measure aspirations and expectations? We picked 4 dimensions. As I said earlier, aspirations, of course, can characterize multiple domains. We chose 4 because they are deemed salient: annual income in cash, assets, particularly durables, including the houses, housing ownership, the type of house, furniture, and other durables; social status in the form of villagers seeking advice, what fraction of villagers actually seek advice, and standard deviation of the village, each village. Empirical specification, we measure intent to treat effects of the intervention. And this, of course, is possible because the really high rates of compliance means that there is little difference. It's unlikely that there will be substantial difference between average treatment effects on the treated and the ITT. That's the specification. The Y's are the outcomes. T represents the treatment, P the placebo, and C the controls. What I report to you today focuses on the within village treatment. So it's 64 villages, not 84. And B1 represents the impact of the treatment. The difference between B1 and B2 would be the test for whether the content of the videos is the one that drives the results or the act of screening. And all these 2 groups are compared with the within village controls. And we have a number of variables to control. We control for age and gender, marital status, schooling, highest grade, and land ownership, as well as village level controls. Because this is an agricultural community, we have some of these characteristics. Results. These are long-term results. So this table reports some example. We test quite a few, by the way. So this reports on hypothesis 1, 2, 3, and 5. That means on aspirations and expectations, on human capital and labor supply, and on investment or forward-looking behavior and welfare. So when you look at the aspiration index constructed in the manner that I described quickly earlier, we observe that it is that the treated households have a higher aspiration than the within village controls, and this is significant at 10%. The first one, the star on the estimate, represents the unadjusted p-value or significance level, that is 10%, while the star on the number within square brackets is the adjusted for multiple hypothesis testing significance. Again, both are significant at 10% for the aspiration index. As you see, the placebo has no effect on the aspiration index, and also the treatment versus placebo comparison shows that it is not the act of screening per se that induces this result, but the content of the videos, which is this story of the potential role models and success stories. The same is repeated, the same results are obtained for expectations. In fact, it is a much stronger results in terms of significance, as you clearly see. And this perhaps is because the first change is in beliefs. The first step in the process of change is a modification of beliefs, and then subsequently preferences, but that is not being tested here. So this is speculation on my part. How about labor supply? We also find significant increase in the daily minutes spent on family labor. Again, you clearly see its significance. This is measured in minutes, and it's significant not only in the unadjusted sense, but also controlling for multiple testing. How about investment in human capital? Five. Again, this is higher for the treated. I cannot see the because of the, hold on. Okay. But this is not significantly different from the treatment and placebo comparison. Then investment for forward-looking behavior represented here in investing on modern inputs in crop production. Again, we observe significant welfare represented here by food gap, 0.36 months lower food gap is recorded by the treated. And again, we have significant difference between the treatment and placebo arms, while the placebo, as you clearly see on the middle column, the third column has no impact on all these variables. Hypothesis 4 talks about possible alternative explanations. Is the aspirations change the cause? And we have measured here 3 potential explanations. One is internal locus of control, the extent to which people believe in controlling their circumstances and their life. That, as you see, is not different across all these arms. The same is true for risk aversion. No impact on risk aversion, although there is a negative sign there linked with the treatment arm. Impatience also that means discount rates, higher discount rate has no difference across these groupings. Continuing the question of alternative explanations, we also looked at the issue of information, and we observe that there is no effect on whether households undertake the specific acts or choices actually made by the role models in the videos. These are grain milling, trading, irrigation, and so on. These are not the activities that we observe are impacted. Second, we also observed influences in areas that are not covered by the videos, such as education, both in terms of aspirations and investment, as well as savings. So as I told you, we take within family adjustments for multiple testing. And some elements of behavior and as well as expectations, not only within 6 months, but also after 5 years out the treatment. That is very surprising result. We threw a lot of robustness checks at it, and it has survived. And the comparison between treatment and within village controls, as well as treatment and placebo, has shown that it is the content of the videos, not the screening. So we observe increasing aspirations and expectations. We also observe some changes in economic behavior and welfare. There is very small spillover effects, because now we can test for spillover effects by comparing within village controls to households in the pure controlled villages, and we did not observe a lot of spillover effects, although there is some. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alemayehu, for a very interesting presentation, and I think this is very relevant for Central Asia, more specifically Uzbekistan. Poverty reduction is a key policy objective at this time in Central Asian countries, more specifically in Uzbekistan. So this, I mean, perspective is very applicable in that environment as well. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Etenesh Bekele for her comments. Please.
Okay. Thank you, Kamiljan, and thank you, Alemayehu. I'm so excited to see Alex, who I have worked with some time ago, and who used to be my role model. So he's someone who aspires me. I will reflect, I will be very brief, and I will only reflect on 4 main points. As Kamil Janaka said, this topic on aspiration is very important for Central Asia, and I mean, it's a very universal feature and personality trait feature. As Kamil Jan said, for Central Asia, because Central Asia aspires to be one of the greatest regions by 2030, and specifically Uzbekistan wants to achieve a higher middle income country by 2030, and we have the Sustainable Development Goals. So how aspiration of individuals and villages in a group, as a group, contributes to such kind of goals is very important. And at Westminster, where I'm working currently, we look at research that have futuristic view, and that contribute to policy directions and decisions for development and poverty reduction. So I confirm that it is a relevant topic, and aspiration are the psychological feature or a character, or I don't know how you call it, bringing it into economic analysis and poverty is an interesting research. Having said this, I will talk about maybe the study approach you used and the methodology and the measures you used, Alex. So you took a very poor woreda, which is isolated, and selected villages, and you had 5 hypotheses. One of my questions would be like, how replicable is your research design in a bit advanced countries if we want to use your research methodology and use your experimental design? And I didn't get you, and I was trying to also get from the slide, I didn't understand what B represents in the maximization equation. Maybe you can repeat that for our viewers and my purpose. V in the maximization equation, and how maximization equation is related to the regression model is not also very clear for me. Yes, the 4 variables you use to measure in the data collection tool, and which you were asking respondents, are very maybe useful and are important goal for the rural community. But why did you pick those 4 variables? And can we pick any variable depending on what the intended respondents would want as a goal, or how it is likely to achieve those goals? So a little bit more explanation in a different setting would be useful. I don't have anything to say about your regression model, because it seems that you have done all the homework in terms of looking at the robustness and you control. But like, I would have maybe more as a social scientist, I would have loved to see a little bit more explanation on how aspiration differs by age and by gender. If you have those two, at least I would love to hear what did aspiration look like for the youth and the old, and for the men and the women. And finally, like, what is the value of such a study? As I said, it's very important to see how aspiration affects poverty and the future. But what is the policy implication, and what would be your advice for policymakers after doing this research? Thank you, Alex.
Alemayehu, would you like to respond to these comments, please?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tanish, for very kind words. I definitely didn't think to find you in Tashkent, but this is the globalized world that Kamiljan mentioned earlier. Thank you for your comments also, very relevant comments. So I start with the first query about replicability of the study. So I make 2 points. One, it is replicable, but as you implied, it would require adjustment from locality to locality. The fact that we have focused on a very poor, remote, traditional community is in some sense by design, and obviously the interventions that you use there would be different in a more advanced community. Second, so this is of course related to external validity, and as I highlighted earlier, the point estimates particularly may not be externally valid, although the direction and the relationship among the variables may, aspirations and, for instance, economic behavior may be valid, but the point estimates are unlikely to be valid. And V is the indirect utility function. It's the sign of the utility function. So yeah, or if you like, it is there is small u, which is the contemporaneous utility function, and V is the intertemporal utility function across periods. And the link with the regression is not direct. Ideally, one would use the Euler equations or the first order conditions and come up with a regression specification, but we cannot do that. We get the idea, the implication, for instance, that aspirations matter to choice, or and so on. So that is what we took, and because we are running an RCT, a lot of the econometric complications are taken care of in principle, so that we can use simple OLS with controls to get at our results. The 4 variables or the 4 domains are selected because they appear to be salient. People talk about income when they talk about growth or poverty. People talk about assets or assets and durables and so on when they talk about standard of living. So better housing, better furniture, better transport mechanisms, and so on and so forth. Also, individuals appear to enjoy influence and respect in their communities. So that's why we chose the 3rd. And finally, it seems to be common that households or parents care about their children's education. But as you clearly correctly pointed out, these are not the only ones that are relevant. We could add health, for instance, a very easy example, and other indicators. So this is for salience and parsimony that they were chosen, but one can and should expand these to other domains. I'm glad you asked about age and gender. In fact, we have a separate paper on gender extracted from this about the aspirations of parents for their children's education. That is the strongest result in the impacts, as you see. And we asked 2 questions. Do parents have different aspirations for their children in terms of education because of their gender? And the answer is yes. They have lower aspiration for their girls, their daughters. But equally importantly, mothers have lower aspirations for education aspirations for their children than fathers. Third, and perhaps even more discouraging, is that although the intervention improves the overall aspiration for children's education, it didn't reduce the bias in aspirations for girls' education. It didn't impact that. It remained the same. The value of so this is this paper is in the AR proceedings, papers and proceedings. It is already published. The value of such study, two very broad relevance or value. One is to get the message across that it is clear opportunities matter, and they should government policy should try to improve opportunities, but opportunities alone may not be sufficient, because one, people, it's observed, some people fail to exploit existing opportunities, and two, opportunities are not constant. The individuals also create opportunities. That is kind of the development process of over the last 400 years. So although focusing on opportunities is important, it's also important to note that they are not sufficient, and it is important for policies to design ways of unblocking these individual psychological level constraints, limiting individual choice. And in that design, the role of nudge, where to nudge, could be detected using the kind of research I reported today. Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you, Alemayehu. And actually, our time is up, but we got several questions from participants, and I will share those questions with you. But one of the questions about why focus on eldest child's education, how about the other children? And another was about the girls' education. Why not focus about girls' education? Because in developing countries, that may be one of the huge problems. And you already mentioned that there is separate paper on gender specific issues, and there is also a question about policy implications, whether if this short video can have such a huge impact on welfare and farming and other issues. What are the policy implications of this? And there is also a question on the attrition. Your follow-up survey is after 5 years. Did you have any issues with attrition problem? And so, yeah, I think, yeah, in 1 minute, if you can just wrap up, and then I will send those questions. And also, if you can give that link to your paper on the gender, we will share it with the participants. Please.
Thank you very much, Hamilton. Why the eldest child? 2 reasons. One is to concentrate attention of the parent, to fix attention. If it is, how about your children? It is confusing. And if we also ask about the first, the second, the third, then it starts to get complicated. What is important, however, is that we didn't say who is the oldest, and we let the respondent choose the eldest, whoever is for him or her. We know about the gender of the child, of course. So I told you about the study on girls' education. The implication that this rather inexpensive and light touch intervention has impact is encouraging. It is possible to design such interventions, and there is now evidence that different media-based interventions could work. Attrition, as I mentioned during the presentation, across 5 years, we suffered only a loss of 9.6% of our sample. And it's not a lot. And one caveat here is that younger households younger sample members seem to attrit more. However, attrition is not related with treatment as well as outcomes. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Alemayehu, for very interesting presentation. As you mentioned, paper is already published in the American Economic Review Papers and Proceedings. So we will share with our participants, and also other paper. You can send me the link. I will share it with interested colleagues in Central Asia. And I would like to thank you, Etanesh, and our host, Westminster International University, for such an opportunity and for sharing this very interesting results. And I also would like to especially thank our participants. Despite this cold, snowy day in Tashkent in Central Asia, they joined virtually this event. And with this, I would like to stop here and thank all of you. Please stay warm and stay safe, and we will meet next week, same time, same day, with presentation with Dr. Daniel Resnick. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dennis. Ciao, ciao. Email Gilling.
I will. Yeah. Alex, thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, for connecting us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.